The Mr. Excel podcast is sponsored by Easy Excel. Learn Excel from Mr. Excel podcast episode 1955. Discount tiers, where only the units above the tier get the discount. Hey, welcome back to the Mr. Excel Netcast. I'm Bill Jell, and today's question sent all the way from Pakistan. Muhammad has a problem where he has to figure out the total amount of charges. And, here's the question. Nothing endears me more than demanding a video in all caps with very little explanation. And check this out, a huge, massive merge cell. But here we are. We're doing this video anyway. So the question, and he was given an example. So you can see the tiers here. Here's the number of units. So if it's less than 100, you're just paying the units times the charges. Simple enough. But then if it's less than 200, and of course, that would only be the things from 101 to 200. You're paying the B4 minus the 100 times 1.1%. So there's an upcharge. This must be like some sort of electricity billing where you pay more if you use too much. And then whatever is at the previous tier, 100 minus 0 times the original amount. And you can see there's another tier here for 300. And the formula just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And here in the last one, so you're paying everything above 300 times 125%, everything from 300 to 200, which, hey, let's face it, that's really just 100 times 1.2%, 120%, and then everything from 200 to 100 at 1.1%. And boy, this formula is really confusing. There has to be an easier way to do this. I'm going to abandon the if statements altogether. Let's just come up with a nice, quick solution. All right. And the first thing I want to do is I want to do one of those weird VLOOKUP things where we are having just ranges. So I'm actually going to put a true at the end of the VLOOKUP. So equal VLOOKUP of this unit number. How much are we paying for this particular unit number in this table down here? And we'll press F4 to lock that down. We want the second column, and we are doing the very rare approximate match. So you could leave the true off, but I'm going to put the true there just to remind myself what's happening. So here's how it works. Unit number 1, you're paying 100%. Unit number 99, you're paying 100%. But when you get to unit 110, then you're paying 110%. When you get to unit number 220, you're paying 120%. All right. So this little VLOOKUP here is saying for this particular unit, how much are we going to pay? And it really comes down to this simple little situation here where we're going from x equals 1 to whatever's in B4, so in this case 400. From 1 to 400, do a VLOOKUP of that x into the table, get the second column, comma, true, and then really, I guess I left it off here. We're going to multiply that times C4, and the sum of all of those will come up with our answer, and it won't require a whole bunch of nested if statements. Now, when you set up the table has to go from lowest to highest, and in the original question, right, I mean, we're looking at things less than 100, less than 200, less than 300. The table has to be a little bit different. You have to handle everything from all the way down at the bottom, from 0. From unit number 0, they're going to be paying 100%. When you get to unit 101, that's where they start paying 110%. All right, so let's take a look at the steps here. The first thing I want to do is say that we want to go from equal, in quotes, 1 colon ampersand B4, which is going to build a nice little reference. So it's saying we're going from row 1 to row 400, and there's the formula over there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that thing that looks like a cell reference. I'll do Control Ditto here to bring that formula down, and I'll just click in and say I want to do equal indirect of that thing that looks like a cell reference. Now this is actually going to point to all rows from 1 to 400. Now this actually creates a circular reference, but I'm not using this formula in its current state in the final solution, so that's okay. All right, now that we have an indirect pointing to rows 1 to 400, I need that to generate every number from 1 to 400. So Control Ditto again brings that exact same formula down, and I ask for the equal row of that whole big thing, which is, if I just press Enter, is going to return the number 1. All right, but when I later press Ctrl+Shift+Enter, it's going to return all of the numbers from 1 to 400. Okay, now here's the thing that's beautiful. I want to do a VLOOKUP of every number from 1 to 400, and I now have a formula that's generating all of the numbers from 1 to 400. But VLOOKUP cannot do this. You can't, in this X here, put the numbers 1 to 400. There is, however, an ancient version of VLOOKUP that can do that. All right, and instead of VLOOKUP, it's just simply equal lookup. Lookup, this beautiful thing, can handle an array as the first argument. And then out here is our table. The funny thing about lookup is you don't have to say which column you're looking for, and you don't have to say true. It always looks for the last column in the table, and it always defaults to true, which is usually maddening. But in this particular case, for Muhammad in Pakistan, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right, so right now, when I press enter, all it's going to do is going to do the very first lookup, which is going to give me 100%, because I'm looking up the number 1 in this table. All right, and we get the number 1 as expected. But if instead we would hold down Control, Shift, and Enter, it then goes through and does all 400 lookups. Now, because I want to get 400 answers, I have to send that into some sort of a wrapper function. So we're going to use sum today to sum that whole thing. And here, watch this. Control, Shift, Enter is going to go through. It's adding up 400 numbers, but not 400 at 100%. There's some 100 at 100%, some at 110%, some at 120%, some at 125%. And so we are getting the right answer. Now we still have to multiply that by C4. That's easy to do. Times C4 out here. And again, Control, Shift, Enter. And there is the 3185 that was the answer given in the original example, right? Isn't that a beautiful, short formula? All right, so, hey, and let's do one more thing. Let's take this formula one more time. And we don't want to have to leave this lookup table right there in the worksheet. So we'll select the lookup table and press F9. That'll embed an array constant. And there again, Control, Shift, Enter. All right, so there's my formula. We'll take that formula, copy it from the formula bar, Control C. Come up here to D4, and I will paste that in. Control, Shift, Enter. Don't forget the Control, Shift, Enter. If you don't press Control, Shift, Enter, you're just going to get the wrong answer. So you have to hold down Control and Shift, and then press Enter. All right, and once I have that, I can copy that down to the other cells, and it is doing the correct calculation. All right, now the hassle here is this is the example. They want to make sure that you can understand this in real life. So here's a nice little summary of the whole video so far, how the formula works. You can pause the video at this point and read through the various steps to remember how it works. But then after this example question, there apparently is the actual question, the real life question. And again, very poorly worded. It looks like whoever set this up, Muhammad's manager, didn't bother to put the breaks at the right point. So as best as I can tell, this translates to this table where we have 0, 75, 180, 300. At 0, you're paying 100%, and now there's actually a discount above 75. You're paying 92.5%, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so the question is, can we apply what we just learned with the other example to this? Okay, and pasting the old formula in, I had to adjust a couple of things here to make sure that I'm pointing to now cell C16 instead of B4, and D16 instead of C4. Also pointing to the new lookup table. You have to do that first. It's easier than typing the array constant. And again, here's a trick that I borrowed from Mike Girvin, that I learned from Mike Girvin. Just select that and press F9 to embed that. Again, Control, Shift, Enter. There's our answer. And then copy. Notice you have to copy to a brand new range. And it works all the way down. Now, this would have been a brilliant question for the Dueling Excel podcast, which normally happens on a Friday. Muhammad needed this for his manager by Thursday, so there was a rush. We had to get it done now, quick. So there you go, one solution to avoiding this huge, massive, nested if statement. Well, hey, I want to thank Muhammad for screaming that question at me, and I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time for another netcast from Mr. Excel.
Tips and tricks, get your spreadsheet fix at MrExcel.com.